One of the strongest combo decks this format is probably one you haven't even heard of, and that's Mannadium. What's up guys, this is tcgsam here, and in today's video I'm coming at you guys with my undefeated Mannadium deck profile for the June 2023 format. This is an incredibly fun deck for me to play because I like these strong combo decks, but I also feel like it has a lot of potential because it doesn't have terrible matchups into a deck like Kashtira. It's able to go second with just its engine at times, and it has room for non-engine, which is incredibly strong. Not to mention, of course, its going first end boards are some of the strongest that you'll probably ever see in the format at the moment. So without any further ado, let's just hop straight into the deck profile. So I'm going to try my best to explain what this deck's goal is, because when I played it at the tournament, pretty much no one knew what it did, and I think that was one of the reasons I was able to be so successful, because no one knows like what these cards do. So the very first three of we're playing is 3 copies of Visastar Frost. Visastar Frost is sort of the heart and soul of this deck, not only because it's level 6 tuner and you're able to make your big synchro like 10 plays, but also it has synergy with your extra deck monsters like Vicious Astrolabe, which is one of the best fusion monsters I think pretty much ever. It's able to give you sort of like an ABC Dragon Buster type monster where you're able to banish this and a 1521 defense monster from your graveyard to special summon this, which can help you with your synchro plays, trigger Crosssheet, stuff like that. And of course, it also makes Scareclaw Lightheart, which is an integral part of your combo to get to your Scareclaw side of the deck. Visastar Frost is just a super important part of this deck. You need it for its name. Its in-hand effect is also good because you have some like lower level monsters that trigger when they're destroyed, and Visastar Frost is just good for that reason. You probably need to play 3 if you are playing this deck. Just hard drawing this is incredibly good because it means you have a lot more 2-card combos available to access. So if you guys want to see the combo tutorial, then stay tuned for that because it's coming out a few days after this. You'll be able to see how we utilize cards like Visastar Frost to their fullest potential. And then for the Mannadium engine itself, we're playing 3 copies of Heart. So this is like the best Mannadium card. Essentially, it's a Stratos. When it's normal or special, you get to add a Mannadium card from your deck to your hand. But it also has a neat effect in hand where you can target a Mannadium monster you control or a 1521 monster and then special destroy it and special summon it. So that's good for triggering your small Mannadium monsters that get triggered when they get destroyed. But it also helps you dodge cards like Book of Moon and Infinite Permanence, which I did many times during the tournament, where I'd have a monster on board and my opponent would target it. I chain this if it was a Mannadium or a 1521, destroy it, special summon it, and then I'd be able to get his effect to search. So it's not only a searcher, but like I mentioned, it's also important for a card like Vicious Astrolabe since it has 1521 defense. And then for these small Mannadium monsters, these are the Mannadium monsters that want to be destroyed by card effects. The first one is Mannadium Meek. So what Meek does when it's destroyed is you summon another copy of Meek from the deck, and then you can increase this level by 4. So that helps you bridge into your higher level synchro plays, which is incredibly good. And this is one of the key parts of the deck where you want to have access to these tuners, and you want them to be destroyed by cards like Visastar Frost or Mannadium Heart. The other Mannadium we're playing is 3 copies of Fearless. Fearless is a bit worse than Meek because its effect turn 1 doesn't really come up. When it's destroyed, you can special summon another Fearless from the deck, and then during this turn, synchro monsters you control gain 500 attack during the battle phase. It's very good going second with OTKs, but you don't really get its full value when going first because you'd much rather have the higher level tuner option to go into your higher level synchros a lot easier. But all of the Mannadiums like balls like Meek and Fearless also have the effect so where if you control Visastar Frost or a monster of 1521 stats, you can special summon them from your hand, so they can be great extenders as well in that sense. I decided to play 3 of each because I just wanted to see these cards in my hand. You have so many cards to destroy them with, and then these are just decent extenders as well. You don't necessarily have to play Fearless in this deck because it is a lot worse than Meek, and you can argue that these are like bricks to draw. But at the end of the day, I figured having this was good because it does help you play through stuff as well when you're going second. Just gets you more extenders onto the board. So I like that for that reason. It also helps OTK with one of the cards in your extra deck. And then for the field spell of the deck is 3 copies of Peaceful Planet Colorium. So Peaceful Planet Colorium, when it's activated, it lets you add a Visastar Frost or a Mannadium monster from your deck to your hand. So it's already pretty good. But it also has a great extension effect to where if one of your face-up tuners is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon it back to your field. So like essentially if you have a Mannadium ball and you destroy it with Visas or Heart, you summon your monster out, Fearless or Meek triggers the summon from deck, and Colorium summons the one you just destroyed back to the field, so then you just get 3 monsters all of a sudden. It also helps you with chain blocking your important effects as well, because you can always make this chain link 3 since Ogre just isn't a card at the moment. It does have a very annoying effect actually, to where your blight monsters gain 100 attack for each tuner that's in your field or graveyard, and it's annoying because the Mannadium balls require you to have 1521 monsters. So if you have Heart on the board and this is up with like tuners in the field or graveyard, then it's not 1521 anymore, which is a little annoying, and that's something you do have to play around. But other than that, it's still an incredibly good field spell. And then next up, we're playing 3 copies of Mannadium Obsidian. So what Obsidian does is you can target a monster you control to destroy it, and then you can add a Peaceful Planet Colorium from your deck to your hand. Or if you already have Colorium, you can add another Mannadium spell or trap from your deck to your hand instead. This is a great enabler because it's able to destroy those Mannadium balls, but you also have access to its graveyard effect, to where you can banish it and then special summon a Visastar Frost or 1521 monster from your hand, which is incredibly strong extension, because then it doesn't matter if you get hand trapped later on, because you're always able to bring out the extra body from your hand and just go off from there. And then the other Mannadium spells and traps we're playing, I'm playing 1 Imaginings and 1 Reframing. Imaginings is pretty decent. You can reveal a Visas or Mannadium in your hand to draw 2, put 1 to the bottom of your deck. You might think this is win more, but I actually think it's pretty needed in this deck, because Obsidian is one of your best search cards, and you want to always make sure it's searching something valuable. So if you don't need the counter trap, or if you're going second, you more than likely want the draw spell to dig deeper for your non-engine like Dark Ruler or Talons, or just more extenders or whatever. It also has a neat graveyard effect where you can banish it and make one of your 1521s a tuner, but that's never come up for me. Reframing is part of your deck's end board, just an Omni-Negate while you control a Synchro monster, and then you can recycle some of your Mannadium monsters by banishing it from the graveyard, which is incredibly strong. And then for the next part of our deck, we're playing 1 copy of Scareclaw Rykart, 1 Arrival, and 1 Permanent Planet Phobia. So the reason why we're playing these is because we have access to Scareclaw Lightheart in the extra deck, which you can link summon using Visastar Frost, which grabs you this, which grabs you this, and then this grabs you a Reborn, and can give you additional draws as well, since you're able to put out a lot of monsters on the board. I think I only wanted to play 1 of each, because you don't necessarily want to draw these in your hand, especially not Scareclaw Arrival. It's pretty bad to draw, and sort of like your 1 brick. These 2 aren't like the best. They're not the worst in the world to draw either, since Phobia can search you a copy of Visastar Frost if you already have Rykart. And then Rykart's not terrible, because at the very worst, like, you can turn to Phobia after, and then you can make like a Synchro 10 with just Rykart alone. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It does have 1521 stats, so you can summon Vicious Astrolabe with it. You can summon your Mannadium balls to the field. You can definitely play more than this. I decided to go with the minimal engine because I just really didn't like seeing these cards in my hand, but that's just personal preference, I think. And with some more testing, I might definitely play more of it. What I played instead was 3 copies of A Hero Lives and then 1 copy of Elemental Hero Prisma. So what this package does is you're able to essentially emergency teleport out Prisma using A Hero Lives, and then you're able to reveal Vicious Astrolabe to send a Visastar Frost from your deck to the grave, copying its name, meaning you can go for Lightheart right away. Lightheart grabs you the Phobia, Phobia grabs Rykart to summon itself, and then from there you at the very worst have Appaloosa plus Barone, which can be a pretty solid end board considering it's off of just A Hero Lives. But also, Hero Lives can also be good to help you play through hand traps, because it either forces stuff out right away, or it lets you put Barone on your board before you commit your other cards to the field. So I think Prisma can be good for that reason. There were times where I would hate seeing this like later on in the turn or something. It's just really bad, and I didn't want to do that. But I think that's sort of like the trade-off you played. So I think in the future, like, I would consider cutting this and then consider playing a higher count of these, just because Phobia and Rykart are actually pretty solid cards. I just decided this was probably the way to go for now. So in the future, you can definitely cut this, but I like this because it helps you play through hand traps, and it can establish a board on its own if you don't have any other starters in your hand. So that's it for the main engine. For the power spells, we're playing 1 Call by, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, and 1 Terraforming. Pretty self-explanatory, not much to say about those. There's just some of the strongest spells in the game. And then for the non-engine, I was playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. I think I wanted to switch off of this. I really didn't want to play this. I wanted to play as high impact cards in my deck as possible, but I wanted to respect Branded just because of how strong the deck can still be. and it's just good against like every matchup out there, even like the control ones. So I decided Ash Blossom would be good to play. I ended up going with Droll and Lockbird in the main, and I think looking back, this definitely shouldn't have been in here. I should have played a card like Imperm in its place, just because of how much safer it'd be. Imperm is at least usable even against Labyrinth, for example. It's decent against like all the other decks that Droll is good against too. Of course, it's never gonna really be as high impact as Droll, but I like its utility going second. That's definitely something I should have considered. Just being able to have a quote-unquote extra board breaker in a sense against, let's say, a Kashtira or Rise Heart, or like a Hermetic Sealer, for example. Just being able to Imperm that and go on with your plays, I think could be really strong. So I think this should, in moving forward, this should be Imperm, and Droll should be relegated to the side deck. But for this tournament, I decided to main deck Droll because I thought it was incredibly high impact against most of the decks out there. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Dribble Tactics Talent. I think this is an incredibly strong card. This deck is a combo deck going first. People are going to side hand traps in against you, and this can help you with that. But going second, this is a pretty solid card as well, just across the board. You can consider playing 2 copies of Thrust and 1 copies of Talent. That's definitely something you can do. I just don't have Thrust at the moment, so I went with triple talents. And then finally, to close it off, we're playing 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. So Dark Ruler No More, I think, is probably main deck worthy this format for sure. Even against decks like Dragon Link, if they just end on Savage plus Seal, this still trades pretty well into it. Of course, it's good against a deck like Kashtira, where they end on like Shang, Riser, and like Fenrir. This is really strong against them. It's just good against so many of the decks out there. I think it's worth playing. And as a standalone card, it can help you dismantle like the Sprite variant boards, which are really important. So that's it for the main deck. I played 42 cards. The reason I didn't play 40 is because I didn't want to draw like those one-offs like Prisma. I didn't want to draw those one-offs like Arrivals. I want to lower the chances of seeing them. I also didn't want to draw duplicates of like the Mannadium tuners. So just bumping it up actually inadvertently sort of helps, because your other ratios of like starters and stuff are still like the same. So you still have the same type of consistency, but you just see those bricks less often, which is good. Moving on to the extra deck, I'm playing 2 copies of Vicious Astrolabe. So Vicious Astrolabe, all it takes to summon is Banish of Visastar Frost plus a monster with 1521 defense. And your Rykart and your Riem Heart have those stat lines. So when you, after you like synchro off and do your combos, you just have a free like level 8 3k beater that can pop a monster on the field when you summon it. It triggers your Crosssheet as well, which is an important part of your combo. But going second, like, it's just so strong because it pops a monster and then it gains half his attack. 2 is solid. You always go through 1 in your combo, so you want at least 1 in your extra deck afterwards. The reason I'm not playing 3 is because with all the Bystials running around, I don't think your Visas is always going to stay in the graveyard. And a lot of the times, I think if you summon the second one, I found that like you should just be winning most of the time. You can definitely play a third one though, and I'll show you some things you can cut from the extra deck if you want to go down that route. Next up for the synchros, we're playing 1 copy of Triage Master. This is the best level 6 I think out there right now. It just gives you a free draw 1. It's a light monster for Chaos Angel. Sometimes you're just gonna have level 4 plus a ball, and then you need to draw a card. And there's not much to say about that. This is pretty good for that reason. And then for the 8s, I'm playing 1 Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon and 1 Stardust Dragon. So Excel is an important part of your combo because it's a dragon monster that helps you bridge into your level 10 synchros, helps you make Bystial Dispotter, which is an important part of your end board. And the Stardust Dragon is just so Excel can gain the most value possible to help you play through hand traps. Or like if you have to just pass on like an Excel, at the very least you can summon a level 10 synchro that's unaffected. And that can be very difficult for some decks to out. So there's those for the level 8s, and then for the 10s, I'm playing Bystial Dispotter. So Dispotter is a good part of your end board because you always have cards banished because you're summoning Vicious Astrolabe, but it also has the great extension effect of being able to summon back Visastar Frost from your banish zone, which not only gets you a level 6 tuner back on the board, it not only lets you summon Lightheart back, but it also gives you a Visas in the graveyard for the following Astrolabe during the next turn. So it's just a super important part of the combo. Next up, I'm playing 1 copy of Baronne de Fleur. This is probably just the Synchro 10 out there, so you always just want to play it. 1 copy of Chaos Angel. You can make this pretty easily in this deck. You have a bunch of lights with like Visastar Frost and Riem Heart, and then you have darks in Rykart to make it, so it's very difficult for your opponent to actually kill this card and your other Synchro monsters. And then next up, I played 1 copy of Icee Jamir Adrian. So Adrian, the way you summon it is you use Meek, because Meek is a water tuner. This is good against some matchups out there. In the future, I don't know if I would really play this. I found myself ending on Barone, Chaos Angel, and Dispatter a lot when I had access to my full combo, because Chaos Angel did offer that really nice protection against like most of the combo decks out there. But Adrian can be another alternative if in some matchups where card destruction is a lot more prevalent, that where something like Chaos Angel actually can't help you. Adrian can be really good because not only can it remove a resource from your opponent, but also protects your cards from those destructive effects. So in some matchups, Chaos Angel's protection is better. In some matchups, Icee Jamir, Adrian's protection is better. I just didn't want to play a card like Sword Soul Changing because I really don't think that card does anything, especially going first. Like, it's only ever going to trigger against decks that like banish stuff, which is not all of them. Like sometimes Cashiero, if you play against Cashiero, will be good, but other than that, I'm not sure like when I would ever want to blind end on Changing. And then for the last Synchro 10, I played Mannadium Prime Heart. So aside from being one of the most interesting memes out there, Prime Heart actually has a pretty solid role in this deck to play as an OTK enabler. The way you can summon it is using multiple tuners, because all it requires is 1+ tuners and a light monster. So for example, you can have like 2 Mannadium balls plus a Visastar Frost to summon it, and well, it's still legal to summon. What it does is it attacks 1 time for each tuner that you use to summon it. So if you use 3 tuners to summon it, it can attack 3 times, and this is your OTK enabler. Can't be targeted by card effects, which is really good. And there's a very easy combo you can do with just like 2 cards going second to summon this on like your 5th summon. Attempt to go battle phase. If your opponent has Nibiru, then its floating effect lets you summon Visas back from like the graveyard or banish, and you can go into light heart combo from there. That's why a card like Fearless is also good as well, because it gives this 500 attack during the battle phase, and instead of needing 3 attacks, you can sometimes get away with only 2 and just go for a game. So I like Prime Heart as a OTK enabler. And then for the Link monsters, I'm playing 1 copy of Scareclaw Lightheart. So this is an important part of your combo because it does help you get access to Reichphobia, and then Reichphobia lets you grab extra copies of Scareclaw Reichardt or a Visastar Frost to your hand, which is incredibly strong. It's also important to note it's not once per turn, so if you do choose to play 2 Lightheart and your first one gets stopped, if you get access to another Visas on the board, you can just link summon it again and get another search, which is incredibly strong. Its Grave Effect is also good because it helps grab you extra bodies to link summon into a card like Appaloosa with, which is an integral part of your end board combo. I would personally play 2 if I decide to bump up the Scareclaw engine a bit more, but since I don't actually play more than 1 field spell, I felt like 1 was fine. You're probably not going to run into Kashtira ripping your extra deck very often, because the only time that happens now is like if you ash like Theosis when they have Unicorn on the board or something, since they don't have Mind Hacker. Next up is Crosssheet. This is one of the most important combo pieces in this deck. You're able to essentially summon Vicious Astrolabe for free every turn. Summon it to this zone. Crosssheet can bring back level 2 tuner. That's a level 10 synchro right there. Also, since you have synchro monsters in this deck, if it points to a synchro monster, you can pump all your monsters by 700 permanently, which is very strong as well. And then next up is Appaloosa. This is just the end part of your end board. When you have like Crosssheet plus Lightheart and just an extra body, you can turn into Appaloosa, and it's a very strong part of your end board. And then finally, the last 2 monsters I played, these are arguably like the flex spots of the extra deck. I played Unicorn and Axis Go Talker. The theory behind this was there are going to be times where you're just gonna have a bunch of random bodies on the board. Random bodies that, let's say, you can't synchro with, like their levels don't match up, or like you have Lightheart or something just on the board, like something that just doesn't really work for your synchro plays. I figured having generic like boss link monsters is really good. You can climb up to Unicorn pretty easily with like Crosssheet, and then you can turn Unicorn plus a monster into Access Code, and that's a threatening monster that can clear your opponent's board and threaten a lot of damage, despite you having maybe, let's say, some very awkward monsters on the board that don't do anything. So I wanted to play that for this reason. It helps you play through a card like Dimensional Barrier, because then you're no longer only summoning your synchro monsters as your boss monster. So I think having something like this is really great for that reason. It didn't come up in the tournament, but it has come up in the past before, and I think is really good to play. So that's going to do it for the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. I know this video is a bit long, but I wanted to explain what the deck does just generally and very basically, so you have a better idea of what this deck's end goal is. If you want to see some of the boards this deck can put up, even through hand traps, then be sure to check out the combo tutorial, which is coming in a few days after this. I'm going to be showing how you can play through the most common hand traps like Ash Blossom and Infinite Impermanence, and still put up a very formidable board despite that. With all that being said, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.